Hello, and welcome to the Ashley Taylor Wellness Podcast. This is your host, Ashley. On this podcast, we talk about all things beauty, health, wellness, and optimization. I strongly believe that one size does not fit all. Wellness isn't just about the absence of dis-ease. It's also about feeling our best, knowing how to take care of ourselves, and learning to listen to and honor our needs. I am a nurse of over 10 years turned coach, and I have learned so much about both conventional and alternative options, and I'm here to help you expand your options. I'm also here to inspire you to learn new ways to improve your quality of life and take your power back. I'm so excited that you're here, and let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the Ashley Taylor Wellness Podcast. And today's guest is Reed Davis. He is the founder of FDN Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, which is a program that I am currently enrolled in. And as someone who has been a nurse for over 10 years and done several coaching programs, I am so impressed with what I'm learning, things that I never learned in nursing school. And it's been such an amazing opportunity for me. So I wanted to bring Reed on to share more about FDN, who it's for, whether you're interested in becoming a practitioner yourself, or if you'd like to be the client of someone who is an FDN, to understand more about what we do. And thank you so much for being here. I'm very lit up, and it's been amazing so far.
Hey, thank you. I should say, aw shucks.
So tell us a little bit about you and what your background is and how you founded FDN.
Well, just sort of the last half of my life, because I'm 70 and you don't want to hear all that nonsense. But I got into FDN or created it, founded it over a period of time, working in a clinic. And I got there via environmental law. So I've always been a do-gooder. I've always been on a mission. You know, it was back then it was saving the whole planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees, and I'm very been a conservationist my whole life. My dad and I hunted and fished, and I always loved nature. And let's do some good on the planet, keep it clean, and that. So that was my mission. And then in the late '90s, I started thinking about people. Like, well, what about people? And what about me? I want to be healthy. I don't want any of this bad environment sneaking up on me and creating some weird thing growing out of my head or in my body somewhere. So I just changed jobs. I went from environmental law. I was a paralegal working in that area, conservation and such. And then I just changed jobs. I went to work in a clinic, and it was a chiropractic, acupuncture, wellness center. And my son was going there back then as a high school athlete. So I really liked the place. I mean, they were doing great things. They're keeping my kid in shape. And I was in good shape, I thought, pretty good shape, Never really been to the doctor. But I loved what they did there. And we talked a lot. And I finally ended up working there more as a businessman to help them establish and to grow. I'd only been there a couple days when the owner said, "Hey, Reed, I'm going to be attending these nutrition classes to get my diplomate in nutrition added to her physician's degree." And she said, "You can go with me and you'll get a certificate as a nutritional therapist, and you can work with the patients of the clinic while you're going through this program." And I jumped on it. I mean, actually, you could imagine. I said, "Yeah, I'll do that. I want to do that. Learn, learn, learn. You got to be learning all the time." And then as soon as I started talking to the patients, I actually got pretty discouraged. I thought, man, are they up against it? Remember, I hadn't really been to a doctor except for an accident, sports, motorcycles and things, and maybe some dental work. But so I didn't know what they're going through with this. And when I heard that they'd been to 6 or 8 or 10 different practitioners and weren't better yet, I thought, man, what a ripoff. Like, well, how does that work? And then I thought that, man, these people are getting ripped off. And I thought, why are they putting their health in someone else's hands anyway? Why aren't you in control of it? Why are you putting your health in these other people's hands who don't know anything about you, really? And they were running a few labs, the medical doctor labs of the day. Remember, this is 1999, 2000 and such. It's not a lot different now. These people had basically been told, there's nothing wrong with you. Your lab work looks normal. It's all in your head. Take a chill pill, or something like that. Now, of course, they knew that that was wrong. They were suffering, but they had nowhere to go really. So they came to our alternative clinic for, again, some of these modalities. And I was kind of thrown into the position of, mostly because I was talking to them, triaging and things, case manager, they made me. And I just said, hey, we got to do something different. At the same time, I'm not a physician, so I can't diagnose or treat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what can you do? Well, you can look at underlying causes and conditions, find out why the doctor says you're hypothyroid, or why the doctor says, what is irritable bowel disease anyway, and all these things. So I had a lot to learn, Ashley, as you could tell, but I had nothing to unlearn. It was kind of
Okay, true.
kind of a like, well, why don't we just find out? And I was very resourceful, and I passed some difficult academic work before, so I wasn't afraid of learning the big words, so to speak. And I started running lab work. Just the doctors there let me pretty much do anything I wanted, and I did a lot of it. I was so, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but ambitious. I wanted to know more about every single person coming in that office. If they would spend the money on running the labs, I'd run the labs for them. And then we'd look at it, and I worked with not only the lab scientists and lab rats, we call them, and good doctors. But after a while, I started recognizing patterns on my own. I started making my own observations about who would, what the underlying causes were. And not only that, but having to give them things to do to try to get back that control. Like, don't put your health in my hands, or that, all these other people that haven't worked. How can we get you to get back that control? So that was the impetus. That was what started FDN, was the desire to stop that cycle of trial and error that they all seem to be in. Everyone coming in there's some that just came in for pain only, but we helped, and then found out, guess what? They've got other problems too, besides their neck and back pain. So it just was a wonderful, wonderful 10 years I spent there, running thousands of labs on thousands of people and making those observations that are now part of the methodology that we use.
Amazing. It's very interesting because I think as an observer in a clinical setting, I learned so much more really about what's not working than I feel like I learned in school, because when you speak to a person, there's so much more than numbers on a piece of paper.
Oh, yeah.
And I do think that labs are great if the right ones are being run. But I was that patient in 2018, full body hives. I saw 9 doctors. I was put on 9 different medications, extreme itching. There was no looking into my drainage, my detox, methylation status. Toxins were not even a consideration. An allergist was a suggestion. But as I was able to run the right test from my DO at the time, I was able to identify things I had never heard of in nursing school. And some of the things that I've learned about in FDN, I still have never heard of. So it's really, really amazing how in depth it is, even with that medical background. But I learned a lot about what not to do in that setting.
Right.
The hospital will save your life. I think there is a time and a place for it, but it's not where we go for wellness. It's for emergencies. And I think that is a big misconception people have. It's not where we go to get healthy. You also mentioned giving the power back to the person. And a lot of people want to go to their doctor or even their coach and say, fix me, but you have to take an active role in your healing. I have to take an active role in my healing, which a lot of people don't want to do. But when we take personal responsibility for ourselves, it might seem like more work, but I found it to be incredibly empowering to realize if I have the ability to put myself in a situation that's not ideal, that's contributing to metabolic chaos, as you say, then I also have the power to make modifications. So it does require us taking an active role. And how can people do that if they don't really know what's going on?
Exactly. It was what drove me in the beginning, was how do I get control into their hands? And one of the things I noticed right away, we had some very dedicated patients. They were coming in for their chiropractic, acupuncture, the different modalities and things. And I started saying, it's not coming in the office, Mrs. Smith, that's going to help you. It's what you do at home
Right.
between your visits. Well,
Yeah.
what do you mean? So that's where that DRESS acronym came. It's like, well, it's your diet, it's rest, it's exercise, it's stress reduction in every way that it could be identified, and also supplementation. And I still don't have my own line of supplements. I know a few things about them, and we're always learning more. But it's what you do at home. Every day. It's every day you get up and you think a certain way, and you have a state of gratitude or grace of some sort, and then you start biting off what you can chew, and get through it. Giving people those things to do at home was the beginning of our protocol system, which you're learning about.
Yeah. So dress, as you mentioned, diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation.
Yep.
So as a coach right now, I use a feedback tool, the Aura Ring, to work with clients
Nice.
on those foundational lifestyle habits. And I think that if you're going to do a protocol, it is in your best interest to make sure that you're doing what you can with lifestyle first, fill in the gaps there. But change does not happen on a call. And that's where people think, oh, when I go to my doctor's office, that's where the change happens. And I fully agree. It's every day you're faced with decisions and you get to choose how you're going to show up. That's where the real change happens. But a lot of people don't know, what is the right diet for me? How much rest do I need? And we have different tools and things like that. But most people aren't thinking of those things. They're thinking about, how can I eliminate this symptom versus how can I nourish my body, or how can I increase my vitality and resilience?
And carrying that just a step further, because that's excellent. Instead of just treating the symptom, making it go away, find out why you have the symptom. But there's still this other factor, and it's called making the invisible visible. This is what a friend of mine calls it. If people had pain, let's say they had neck pain, and they come in for 6 or 8, 10 visits, and they're out of neck pain, are they fine now? Are they all better? Well, no, they're just out of pain. And so the underlying, in terms of the spine, it would be called a subluxation or something, misalignments and stuff like that. In terms of digestion, yeah, you could get out of the heartburn, gas, indigestion, bloating, and things. But what else is going on? And why did you get that in the first place? Yes, getting the underlying causes instead of just treating symptoms is important. But what if you don't have any symptoms? Then are you still okay? Well, there's markers, the longevity and anti-aging markers, that there is no symptom for yet. Things like uric acid and high sensitivity C-reactive protein, and which is an inflammatory marker. So once you get out of the woods, you get out of pain, you get rid of your fatigue and irritable bowel and digestion, migraines, skin conditions like you mentioned. I have a great story about that one, by the way.
Yeah.
Then what? Well, then you continue the work. You don't stop just because you're not in pain anymore. You continue to build and get into the sort of anti-aging aspects.
The way I look at it is, a lot of people want to go straight to optimization. We need to go to the foundation, which I think is lifestyle, and then filling in the gaps with a lot of the healing opportunities that we may or may not know about without the testing. And then we can really focus on maintenance and optimization, but people don't give themselves a realistic timeline. In your experience, what do you think is a realistic timeline? Let's say I've been living an inflammatory lifestyle, working night shift as a nurse for 10 years. Am I going to heal in 3 months, or is it going to take a little bit longer for my body to fully recalibrate and be able to be at that end goal that I'd like to achieve?
The obvious answer is it depends, but you should see yourself moving quickly, in the right direction very quickly. I tell people, look, if we run the labs, we do an assessment, we match the labs up with the person, about clinical correlation. It's amazing how people go, wow, I can't believe you've nailed it. Like someone finally explained to me why I feel so crappy. When my regular doctor said it's all in your head, or here's your chill pill, your blood work looks normal and that kind of thing. We actually do find these healing opportunities, and then people are much more motivated to do something about it, which is follow the lifestyle program, and that is what takes the time. So it also helps us actually define the difference between what we do, our backyard,
Mm-hmm.
and then the medical backyard, and they're not incompatible. There's a place where they actually overlap just a little bit. I think we own that overlap because we're the ones doing the health coaching. You go to a doctor, as you said, when the downward spiral is contracted, and you don't have time to capitalize on our observations. So in other words, you have Ebola virus. Well, you better go get treated or you're going to die. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to call your FDN practitioner.
Right.
Same thing with bullet wounds and car accidents and whatever you might have. Go get saved. Well, now we've got time to repair, restore, rebuild, rejuvenate, rebalance, and all the things that we can do. So the body needs time to heal. Many, many things are self-healing, but go away by itself almost. The problem you run into is some of these downward spirals continue. They don't get better on their own, and you have to look at all the input and things like that. Let me give a quick story because I loved what you said about the hives.
Mm-hmm.
A lady was coming in our office and she wasn't my client yet. She became my client that day because she was just coming in for chiropractic. Oh, I'm fine. She said, I'm fine. I just have neck pain. Well, you don't really look fine, but okay, whatever. So on about her eighth visit, she was looking depressed, and I said, "Hey, first name, what's going on?" Oh, it's this weight. I'm 40 pounds overweight, and it's because of this medication I've been on for 2 years. As I'm walking her back to a treatment room, and by the way, I was a really good body worker, and our chiropractic patients would get some body work, a little trigger point therapy at least,
Mm-hmm.
and then a heat pack, and then the doctor. They'd be very relaxed by the time the chiropractor doctor came in, and she would adjust them, go on your merry way, right? Come in, see you next time. So anyway, she's talking to me, and I'm trying to get a word in. I'm so upset. I'm so frustrated. I'm 40 pounds overweight. And it's because of this medication. And I'm on the medication because of the hives. And I'm about to say, and she's no. And I went to the doctor the other day, Reed, and he said, "Lady, I told him how frustrated I was, and he told her, she says, you can be fat or you can have the hives. Take your pick." And I started to see why she was so upset. And then she says, and so I told him how depressing that was. And he said he'd be happy to write her a prescription for antidepressants. Now, you've been a nurse, so this is not a new story to you.
Not at
But,
all. Mm-hmm.
to me, I was just flabbergasted. And I go,
Mm-hmm.
well, no wonder you have your head down today. Why didn't you ever try to find out why you get the hives?
Mm-hmm.
What? Like her head snapped around so hard to look at me, I thought she wouldn't need her chiropractic treatment that day, just like, and it's not funny. But she goes, what? And I said, you've been struggling for 2 years and you never looked into why you get the hives? Like, just there's tests. And this is back to where we started with the labs, and there's really good labs. The results that we got from running a couple labs, environmental and food sensitivities and these kind of things, we checked their circadian rhythm, all this stuff too. But bottom line, after our first results and recommendations session, hey, here's your results. These are our findings. These are our recommendations. 9 days later, she called her doctor and said, I'm off this medication because I found out why I get the hives. So that person lost a customer, which is good for the lady and for us, run the labs, find out why you get this stuff. 2 weeks later, she was working out in the gym to a sweat and taking hot showers. And she hadn't done that in 2 years. Because even
Wow.
on the medication, hot showers and sweating cause hives to come. You know the story, you've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so man, how do you think the practitioner felt? Really good. This is very rewarding, satisfying, emotionally rewarding work. It's hard to find a job that's that rewarding when you do good. And so that's, again, why I was so dedicated to the system. That feels good. I only
Yes.
developed FDN actually for that office and for my practice, not to be teaching around the world as I do now. It came much later, 10 years later, before I ever taught one class. The only thing I taught was people, face to face, head educator for the clinic.
Yeah, it's really interesting how we see doctors and they are taught to diagnose and prescribe. They're doing what they're trained to do.
Trained to
And once
do.
again, there's the time and a place. I will say that you may not know what is going on in your body, but you know when something is off. So
Yeah.
the doctor doesn't get to tell you, in my strong personal opinion, that nothing's wrong with you. If you feel something's off, they may not be able to figure it out with the test that they're running, but there could be something deeper. And had I not gone through that experience of being told there's nothing else we can do, your labs are fine, I actually
Mhm.
found out from an environmental toxin screen there was a chemical MTBE and my levels were 6,000. We shouldn't have any. I live next to an
Wow.
oil refinery. So there was a legitimate reason that my body was swollen. I had hives. I wasn't going to the bathroom regularly. I was working night shift. I mean, I had so many things. And even as a nurse for night shift and the power of circadian rhythm and light in our biology, I was paid an extra $4 an hour for night shift, which is so funny.
Yeah.
And it cost a lot more than that to rebuild my health.
Yeah.
So now I see it as an investment. Being a board certified registered nurse has a lot more prestige and respect, but I did not feel I was making the impact that I wanted to make. This is a little personal, but I dropped out of high school. So it felt like I was respected by society. And then it was an inner conflict because I'm like, on the outside, it looks great. But in my soul, I know, especially from what I went through, there is more that can be done. At the time, I had a partner who was very supportive and said, if money didn't matter, what would you want to do? And I said, coaching and being a practitioner and running these tests that helped me so much. I considered going back to school to be a naturopathic doctor. I'm actually really grateful I did not go that route and stuck to coaching and being a practitioner because then I can work with people all over, which is really great
Right.
versus just in the state in which I'm licensed. Some people say that coaching or being a practitioner doesn't have as much prestige. That's not why I'm doing it. I care about getting people results, helping them realize how great they can feel, hopefully sharing what they learn with others, and I want to make an impact. So I think that we're just in the start of coaching and certainly FDN. So I'm very excited to be not the first, but one of, I think it's just going to grow. And once again, it has been so incredible. And what types of tests are run?
Well, that's a good question. But I want to commend you first and
Mhm.
say that you get it. You know why we do this. And
Yeah.
everybody in our profession is or likely to be mission driven. We have a purpose. We have a reason to get up in the morning because we know how good it feels to help people. That emotional freedom, if you will, that you're doing something right is important. And you mentioned what I call geographical freedom, because we could do this. They don't have to be in your state and come into the office and get all their vitals checked. And, someone else could do that where they live. We
Right.
want to run the labs and see how they're really doing, what's really going on inside. While we're on this idea of geographical freedom, they could be in any country that we can get the labs to. There are FDNs in 50 countries.
Wow.
Even if there's only one in that country that
Mhm.
I didn't know was a country,
Yeah, that's
if they can
amazing.
run the labs, they can do this. Or they can just build up a US clientele as well. So, and a lot of them do, but we're all over the place. So that's geographical freedom. This screen behind me, where am I? You don't know. I mean, I live in San Diego, but am I there or am I in Cabo at my townhouse? So you can do this like that from everywhere. So you have the emotional freedom of you're on purpose, you're doing great work. You have the geographical freedom. And of course, the time freedom. I can work my own hours when I say, not being
Yes.
bound to some doctor's office or something. Although there's nothing wrong with having a job, trust me. People, if you just want to have a job doing this, you can get one. So you got the time, the geographical, you've got the emotional freedom. You have financial freedom. You can set your own wages. You're really able to charge what the market will bear. The last but not least would be your health freedom. And
Yes.
I talk about these five freedoms that you get to work on yourself first. I told you before we turned the recording on, hey, I'm not here to sell anything. I just want to help your listeners. And that's true. But these five freedoms, health freedom and time freedom and geographical freedom and emotional freedom and the financial freedom of being able to, you set your own rate. No one else can put a price on your service. And
Yeah.
it's a very easy to do fee for service business. You want my help? It's fee for service. So, if we agree on that we can help you and then we go forward, you pay me and I help you, period. I love the labs. The
Hmm.
labs were the most exciting thing when I first started. I could get lab work done, and it was just I was at a seminar, and they weren't even talking about labs. But the guy said, incidentally, "Oh, by the way, if you want to run a saliva adrenal stress test, here's an 800 number." And I wrote it down. And Monday morning, I called and I had them ship me a bunch of kits, and I just started giving kits out to all of our patients, and I became a expert at those saliva adrenal stress profiles. Like just, I ran hundreds of them in a very short period of time. And I realized that was helping people. Well, Mrs. Smith got her hormones, boy, it cleared her problem right up. But other people, it wasn't just the hormones. So I had to learn, well, the other tests that I could run, like the metabolic wellness panel, oxidative stress, digestion, detoxification. So it all started layering in my pursuit of each individual client, and the pattern just emerged of hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous system balance. Those six constructs, places where dysfunction can easily occur, became the sort of magic pattern. Along with
Yes.
oxidative stress, food sensitivity. There's others, but man, did that help a lot of people. And that's why finally, after 10 years, I was able to start teaching because someone else thought I knew something. I still wasn't convinced. Well, I don't really know that much. No, Reed, you got to teach what you're doing. And so I started.
Yeah, it's the asking of why. And just to speak on something you just mentioned about the types of freedom that this allows for the person who is completing the program, if I do not take care of myself, I will not have a job. I am a walking billboard for myself, for my business. And if I'm not taking care of myself, then why would someone want to work with me? When I was working in the hospital, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It does not matter your state of health. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you show up, you do the bare minimum, in my opinion, and that's it. You don't ask too many questions. You just go along with whatever. And that
Good
wasn't
job.
working
Yeah.
for me. And until I literally deteriorated and then realized I now have a career where I get to help people. I'm excited about what I'm doing every day. And I haven't even started the FDN portion. This is just from lifestyle coaching. I'm able to help people. And a lot of my clients, I will refer to other FDNs to do testing since I can't, but I'm like, might as well do it myself. And once again, I'm learning so much. It's helping me not just help my clients, but I'm learning how to take better care of myself. And the best investment that we can make is in ourselves. And this world is a little crazy right now. Don't know
Totally.
what's going to
What?
happen. But the one thing I know is that this is my vessel for the remainder of my time here. And I certainly want to take care of it.
Yes, you do. And trust me, things will sneak up on you that if you knew about it ahead of time, you could
Right.
modify your behavior, because certain behavior will result in certain things. It's like you will pay the piper if you eat wrong and don't exercise. You're gonna pay. You can only get by for so long with popping pills to get over the symptoms and things that might occur. I wish I knew some things back when, that now I'm 70 And still, I feel really good. My attitude, my brain is
Mhm.
great. I love life. I love what I do. I love my wife, life and my wife. And so we're happy. But man, my body has taken it. Some things have added up. I did kickboxing for a long time, and my right hip is got a degenerative, torn labrum and some arthritis and things. What, did I do anything wrong? Not really, but I was kind of rough on my body. Some of the motorcycle spills and surfing and skiing and a bunch of other things. Jiu-jitsu. I used to refinish furniture, and I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. It was very artistic, good with my hands and stuff. But man, that it started destroying my liver, so I had to get out of it. Thank God, I got into art and different things, and then I went back to school for that environmental law thing. I wanted to do something good in the world. But anyway, so what you're doing now, you could say, well, I'm 26, I'm invincible. No, you're not. You need to start paying attention now. I wish I did.
I could not agree with that more because I think that when we're teens, and I was a big party girl as a teen. Like I said earlier, I dropped out of high school. I was very lost. I'm so grateful for that because I also think that I was able to turn my life around. So I'm able to help people who are feeling lost themselves, whether that's
Sure.
with their physical health, emotionally, shame, whatever it might be. But once again, the best investment that we can make is in ourselves. And our bodies can compensate so much more so when we're younger in our teens and our 20s. So I really wasn't making the connection between certain behaviors and choices and the effects on my health because the body was able to compensate until it couldn't anymore. And I quite literally collapsed in 2016, crashed. And I
Right.
do think it's more than physical. There was a lot of emotional things. But
No
if we're
doubt.
able to intervene sooner, or just, worst case scenario, I guess worst is that you have a baseline that's optimal. That would be best case scenario or worst case, depending on how you look at it. Or there are some things to address. And if we are able to find these things out before it's a big issue, it's going to require so much less energy, time, and resources than if we wait until we've been in dis-ease for us and in that state for years, if not decades.
And that's why I think that you need a system. And
Hmm.
I don't care if you follow the hidden stressors, we run lab work on everybody because we don't care what your diagnosis is from your medical doctor. We want to know all the whys and wherefores. So we run the HIDDEN assessments. We're looking at a constellation of healing opportunities, and then that's your assessment. What are you going to do to reverse it and fix everything yourself? You're going to
Right.
follow the dress. So hidden stressors and contributors to metabolic chaos and healing opportunities, and then dress. You're going to fix it all. You're not going to treat one thing in particular. You're going to treat every cell, tissue, organ, and system of the body at one time. So everything you said is exactly right. And we're giving people that baseline of, well, where do I start?
Hmm.
Well, let's start with a couple labs, look at some data. The data doesn't lie. And it explains why you feel lousy when other people were telling you, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. And it sounds like this and it sounds like that. I hate the sounds like method. I talk about that a lot in my talks. I don't care what it sounds like. Let's just run the labs and find out what it is. Test, don't guess. Then you can apply the messaging around DRESS becomes really important. Really, you're able to focus on your weak areas and do the right thing. Because otherwise, it is a bunch of chaos. There is, if you put one problem into Google, just name a problem, chronic fatigue, you're going to get 3 million hits. It's really, really fun to have a system.
Yeah, I used to deal with extreme depression. And a lot of that was due to emotions I needed to handle. And I was taught, take this medication, you'll feel better, but it did not address that. And so stress is one of the components of the DRESS protocol. in my opinion, it has to do with our state. If we're in a fight or flight state all the time, how
Yeah.
can our body heal itself when it's on alert for whatever might be coming? So I think that's a huge consideration. Stress is something that we couldn't see before. And there are different tests, just like you said, HSCRP, and things that can help us identify what the body's dealing with. So you might have covered some of them, but what are the tests that are run for the clients that come through? So GI map.
Again, I kind of like to go along that HIDDE and the
Okay.
hormones, including your catabolic, anabolic hormones. There's two types of metabolism,
Mm-hmm.
anabolic and catabolic. One is breaking down, one is building up. They're normal, they're natural, everybody does it. But if the catabolic's working faster than the anabolic, the breaking down, then you're breaking down. You're aging before your time. You're getting old before you're supposed to. We look at that along with the other hormones, the sex hormones. They actually are almost less important, although they are cause for a lot of symptoms. So their head kind of rises above the crowd. Theoretically, it's the catabolic anabolic balance that we want to know about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all hormone testing. So there's saliva for that. You can use dried urine, wet urine, blood, saliva. We like saliva just because it's cheap and convenient. You could do it in your own home. By the way, you could do it 4 times in the day. And who's going to go get blood drawn? Urine just isn't very accurate for those time-specific bioavailable levels. And then what else happens when you're in a catabolic state? That's like the cause of all disease. It's stress of some sort, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
mental, emotional, or physical pain, like I have sometimes, or chemical and biochemical stressors, environment, which is again where I started the whole thing. So you have all this stress. What's your sex hormones are shot or diminished. Your periods are off. Your libido's gone. Different things happening. And what's next? Your immune system goes down. The secretory IgA, that's in the gut. Cortisol suppresses that. Then what? Well, you get a dysbiosis. Your flora is out of balance. We all kind of know about the microbiome now, testing it. So yes, we test that, but there's other tests in between that would look at that dysbiosis. Do you have enough good bacteria to break down protein, for instance, or is your digestion working good? In other words, and then on and on. These things spiral downwards into all the way from just a little stress to next thing you know, you've got leaky gut and it's stress based. You've heard a lot of people say all disease begins in the gut. Well, no, it doesn't. It just circles around there so much that we think it's a good place to start for some people. But we know from science that we can go further upstream and find
Yes.
out the stressors that were there in the first place. So anyway, then you're susceptible. You got parasites, bacteria, funguses, viruses, and things, and they're kicking your butt instead of your body kicking their butt. They're kicking your butt, and you're in bed for 3 weeks every time you get sick, and you could have all kinds of symptoms. Some of them more gory than others. So there's a system. There's a step by step. How do I sort out this metabolic chaos?
Mm-hmm.
My
So is it
so
about
so
6 tests that you typically suggest?
everybody I think should do our saliva test for the hormones, peek into the immune system. We use a dried urine test. Again, very convenient. Do it at home.
Mm-hmm.
Just mail it into the lab, and we get oxidative stress, we get liver function, we get digestive function. We call that the metabolic wellness panel.
Mm-hmm.
We do a mucosal barrier assessment. This is a little more work, but all you got to do is prick your finger and put blood, just drip the blood out onto a blotter. So it's easy, no blood draw. Excuse me. And that we would look at the mucosal barrier, the zonulin, the
Mm-hmm.
histamine, the diamine oxidase, and it tells us, trained in this, really what's going on in the gut. Yeah, you've got heartburn, gas, indigestion, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, alternating diarrhea and constipation. You have all these things going on, but why? Why do you have that? And why aren't you breaking down and absorbing your food? Why is your liver showing signs of toxicity, and that's carrying throughout the rest of your body in detox systems like skin, and lymph and kidneys and colon, lungs even. So people with asthma, and you just it's really amazing how the dominoes fall
Yep.
if all you ever do is treat the symptoms. The dominoes will continue to fall, and you end up with really like dangerous conditions. And I could go on. I got case story after case story, but you get it. You're taking the training. So that's just, by the way, all that's just 4 labs. All of that. So you'd also want to check your food sensitivities. And then we call it the metabolic typing test for diet, which tells us your oxidative rate, how much protein, fat, and carbs you should be eating by testing, not by experimenting.
It's
And
very
also that in the food sensitivity test, I've had more miracles from that test than almost anything. I call them miracles because people's migraines disappeared, people's asthma and skin conditions disappeared almost instantly. Now, you can't predict that looking forward, but looking backwards, boy, it happened a lot.
okay. So for the mucosal barrier assessment, I was never told about increased intestinal permeability or zonulin. Leaky gut is the street name for it, but I was told that it's not real. In my case, it was very real. And
Oh,
things
yeah.
that can contribute to that might be certain medications, lots of antibiotic use. And addressing that was completely life-changing for me. And I didn't deal with hives after that. Also, very interesting, I did food sensitivity testing in 2018, and I do not react to the same foods or have that inflammatory response. I'm assuming because my whole system is just healthier. So
Yeah.
why would food sensitivity be helpful just so that you can identify what is causing inflammation? But do you expect that to change as the person heals?
If the question is why test, because guessing not the best way to do it. Some of these reactions are very delayed. So if it was an IgE or the way your immune system works, there's certain types of reactions that you'd know about right away. Like I was allergic to cats,
Okay.
and so they make me sneeze and my eyes water. So that's pretty obvious. Cat, eyes water. It's a direct. Same thing with strawberries or tomatoes. For some people, you eat that or you get exposed to that, you have a reaction. That's instantly. But the immune system is very tricky, and it could take a while for those symptoms to occur, if at all. So you could have these sensitivities that are much more insidious. So you wouldn't put together, unless you got an instant migraine, that the foods could cause migraines because they don't act through the IgE reactivity. They're IgG, or they're beyond that. They're called what we call mediator release sensitivities, and those are the finest sensitivities you could find. So we have a test. It does require a blood draw, but it tests for 176 foods.
And
No
have you
one eats
seen,
176 foods, but it'll cover a lot of ground. More importantly, it gives you the list of foods that you're not reactive to. So
Mhm.
people initially go, "Oh God, I eat carrots every day," and it says don't eat them. Well, don't eat them, but for 3 months. But let's look at the green list. It says, look, you can have all of this food and all that in every category, whether it be the seeds and nuts and whatever. You've got your oils, you've got it'll test for even spices and, things you might put on your food. Certainly all the meats, all the vegetables, all the fruits that are very common and things. So why test? So you don't guess, and so you can identify things that you would never have thought were you're sensitive to, because you can't put the symptom together with eating that food. The connection just doesn't exist because they're delayed. Now, the other thing I have to say about that is, and I mentioned it a moment ago, looking forward, I can't predict who that test is going to help the most. But looking backwards, thank God we ran that test, man. That was the key. So back to looking forward, to the degree that that sensitivity is having an effect on you, to the degree that that sensitivity is contributing to metabolic chaos and your downward stress spiral, that's the degree to which getting off that food will help you. You may have to also look for other things. But the test alone, I love it because you're training people to look around. They got off these foods and they felt 10% better, 50% better, and in some cases, 100% better. They think it cured them because
It
that was the trick. Those were the triggers for their very bad symptom. Again, you can't predict it going forward. I don't know who, so that's why we just test. That lady with the hives that I told you about, that was part of it. I had another patient in the office back in the day, very early on. This is how I knew I was on the right track, actually. And it was a lady we were working with, and she said, "You work with kids?" I said, raised 4 kids, I football coach, got hundreds of kids I've coached and everything. Yeah, I work with kids. Never really had one as a client. I said, why? She goes, well, they're trying to kick them out of school if I don't put them on drugs. Well, I got kicked out of school for being on drugs. No, I'm kidding. So they wanted to kick this kid out of school for not being on drugs. Carried on a little bit more conversation. She didn't want to put him on drugs. And then I found out he's only 9 years old. My God, you want to put a 9-year-old on drugs? Anyway, so I said, I don't know if I can help or not. Let's run some tests, including that food sensitivity test. We changed his life around. We didn't just get him off the bad foods. We got him on the right foods. We got him on a better bedtime schedule. We got him on, especially breakfast and things like that. So anyway, I got a call in a story from the principal of the school, same guy who wanted to put him on drugs. Hey, Mr. Davis, I tracked you down through the mom. I just want to tell you this Billy, call him Billy. He's a different kid. He pays attention. He's not poking at the other kids. He's not outbursting in class inappropriately. He's just a fine young man and he's doing good in school now. And I'm all just, oh boy, this is so good to hear. And then he he just blew it. He blew it because he goes, what'd you put him on? And I was so disappointed, like looking for the magic pill, mister? Like, no, we put him on a better diet and bedtime schedule and homework schedule and exercise schedule and a lot of things, including got him off those foods. We got him off of the bad foods.
My question for the food sensitivity testing, though, is it that the foods are inherently bad or that your gut is compromised in some way and it can't digest the food or you're reacting to it? And as you heal your gut, you might be able to tolerate foods that you couldn't tolerate before.
The answer is that it is kind of a dog chasing its tail in a way. What came first, if you will? Was it the food sensitivities or was it the gut? I think it's both, that one contributed to the other. Bottom line, though, as the gut gets worse, your sensitivities increase, the
Right.
number of things and as you heal it, some of those sensitivities can go away. Another great reason for testing, because you won't heal if you don't remove some of the triggers, inflammatory
Right.
foods. You can't heal that. Now, which came first? There's a point where it doesn't matter. Let's get you off of them and start healing the gut at the same. There's other markers to look at gut. There's lots of others, the SIG-A. And so we start healing and you can retest and they will change. That's the wild thing about MRT tests, the mediator release test for foods, is that they can change. So you want to retest. And
Just so cool. It really is.
it's so cool.
Yeah. And I have found that to be true. The more that my body was overwhelmed, just anything set me off. And now I feel much more resilient. And one thing that the program speaks about is vital reserve. What is that?
It has to do with the intelligence in every cell. So you don't have to teach your cells what their job is. They know it. That's what we call innate intelligence. So it's the same intelligence, I think, that makes tide, the moon hang out where it does, and it doesn't really go out of orbit very much, and the Earth goes around the sun, and you don't have to do very much about that. It just happens, right? So that innate intelligence of the universe is in our bodies in the way that cells function. It's really interesting and it's really intricate too. Oh my God, who thought of that? Genius. Divine. That intelligence provides the capacity to expand a little bit. You can push things out of bounds a little bit. What brings them back is that innate reserve. It could be called metabolic reserve or strategic reserve. The strategy, again, being one I think of a very divine nature. So that reserve, whatever you want to call it, metabolic or strategic, or it's in there, and you can pound away at it. You can do bad things, and it's going to be there, that intellectual or intelligent reserve, until you die. So my mom's 93, still going. If she dies tomorrow, I say, oh, that was a premature death. Because as long as you have intelligent reserve in the cell, but is she losing it here and there? Eventually, we all go. No one gets out alive, but that strategic reserve that you mentioned, intelligent reserve, is there, and it allows you to operate within a certain framework, like a rubber band. You
Mm-hmm.
can you can push it out of whack a little bit, but it knows where it wants to be. It wants to be healthy. It wants to be balanced. We call that homeostasis.
Yes.
It's another word for vital reserve. Like you said, vital reserve. Vitality is that inborn thing. There's philosophy around that that's 150 years old, by the way. Is it vitality, or is it something else? So I'm a near vitalist. I don't believe the body can overcome anything and everything. There's stuff that will kill you,
Mm-hmm.
poison, certainly on the manufactured chemical side, but even in nature, hemlock, for instance, snake bites,
Mm-hmm.
which we have here in Southern California, rattlesnakes. I got plenty of them on my property. But anyway, so I'm not a pure vitalist. Oh, the body will heal itself. No, it won't sometimes.
Right.
That,
We need to do everything we can to facilitate an optimal state and then
yeah.
fill in the gaps with lifestyle supplementation. I think our beliefs and our mindset are very powerful as well. And we're looking at the whole person versus you have AFib. So you just take this case closed.
Mm.
Let's go deeper than that. And that's what I'm just so grateful we're able to do and what I'm learning. So just in finishing up, I mean, I could ask you so many questions, but who can do the program and how long does it take to complete?
Pretty much I can teach you in 10 months what it took me 10 years to learn.
Okay.
So some people can finish a little faster because it is a self-paced course. So about 10 months is what we program, and we have a track. We have lots of help to get you through. Elizabeth, advisor, all the mentors, they're there to serve, to help you understand and to help you do it on yourself. Working on yourself is so much fun. You want that health freedom. Well, you're in charge, not me. About 10 months, and it's less than $10,000. I've had people who with masters, many, and some with PhDs, who told me, gosh, I just wish I found your course first.
100%. I don't have either of those, but I wish I would have found this before. I have learned so much and I'm grateful for my nursing degree and license and all that I've learned, but that was well over $100,000 just for that one degree. I'm still paying it off. And
Hmm.
I honestly feel I make a bigger impact as a coach, not even yet as an FDN. And the investment was so much less. And it taught me real things, whether you choose to, some people do it just for themselves, not even to work with other people. It's amazing. It's such an amazing investment. I really want to
I was going
thank
to
you
say,
for that.
well, let me add to that I don't turn people away. I was asked by a college once, what are your prerequisites? I said, that you care about people, that you want to be healthy, and you're willing to set an example and go for it. And well, what about, don't they have to have a degree already? I go, look, if Mrs. Smith only has a high school education, oh no, you can't take the course.
And there is a written exam, there is an oral
Oh,
exam
you earn
there.
it. You earn
Yeah,
this. You can buy the course.
right.
and we'll help you get through it. But you have to pass the
Right.
written and final exams, the written and oral finals to get your certificate, which is where
Right.
you're headed. You're not going to have any trouble because you're already an FDN in spirit. You want to help others and you want to know a system that actually works.
I'm amazed because I have gotten on calls with other practitioner programs. I have friends and clients who have done other programs, and I have friends that have done FDN, and it is just so thorough. And there was a piece of me, I don't want to scare anyone, but I was like, wow, this is not fluff. This is very, very legitimate information. And so I was very grateful just at how in depth it
Yeah.
is. But also, there are hot topics. There's a Facebook group if you are in the training program, and there's also a Facebook group once you graduate. And there's so much support, and people are just willing to help each other out. Nursing school felt a lot more competitive. This is totally different in that
There's
way.
peer support as well. And I do a
Yes.
call every Friday since 2008, every Friday, and they're all recorded and archived. And we talk, so I have one for the trainees and I have one for my graduates. So every Friday I'm doing Zoom calls with a lot of people who are either in the program seeking that certification, or I separated the graduates because their questions and discussions are a little different. They're actually out there doing it now. So it's different than trying to get through the course, which
Yeah.
is, it's a robust course. There's anatomy, physiology, and
Yes.
biochemistry. There's philosophy, a lot about life in there that I think is fun. I try to make it fun and interesting. So I'm
You,
glad you're
yeah,
enjoying it, Ashley.
absolutely. So, last question to clear this one up. I got it a lot from people in my audience. What can FDNs do and what can't they do?
Well, you can't diagnose and treat disease, and who wants to? Nobody. Nobody wants another diagnosis. Oh, it's this, it's that. Those are just labels put on symptom or cluster of symptoms that also have an attached treatment protocol, the standard of care. So doctors have to diagnose, label it,
Hmm.
because that's how insurance works.
Right.
So you got big pharma and insurance and big white coat all kind of working together to the system of diagnosis and treatment. It isn't helping everybody. It helps some people some of the time, and that's
Mhm.
good. And that's what you need. That's what's going to get you out of the woods. If that's what you need to get the life preserver on, so you're not drowning anymore, great. But then what? So the
Right.
other backyard is FDN and things like it. It's more natural medicine. It's how can that person be in control? What labs, what data do you need to know about the underlying causes and conditions? How do I sort out metabolic chaos? What you can do is help people, help yourself, start with yourself, walk the talk. And then when someone has a health challenge that they want to get rid of, we help you even do the business and onboarding and how to be successful, what makes a good client, and things like that, how to get compliance with your protocols and all that. So there's a lot to learn, but it's those things. What you can do is have your own business or work for someone. You'll be looking at lab work that explains why someone really feels the way they do, not just some label. So you can't diagnose or treat specific things, but you can look at the healing opportunities, and in a sense, that person self-treats everything. We don't treat anything specifically, we treat everything non-specifically. Everything. Again, it's not a replacement for heroic medicine, cancer, gunshot wounds, things, but it will work around the edges of it till they get better.
And my understanding is that if something is abnormal on one of the tests that's significant, we instruct the client to reach out to their doctor. Please share this with your doctor. Or these findings might indicate you follow up with your doctor to see if there's something else going on. So it's not anti-doctor at all.
Not one bit.
Hmm.
Not one bit. And matter of fact, um, some of the tests that we look at, doctors know that they should be running them, and they're glad because their patient went out became a client of an FDN or someone doing this, came back with, "Hey, I ran this test on this. Oh, that's interesting. If they're open,
Right.
and they should be able to sort of fit it into the lifestyle of that person, which is the most important thing. If they poo-poo it, our clients know that they're the ones with the problem, not us. I always say we're the bridge between standard medicine and natural medicine, and we own the bridge.
Yeah. And the most important thing for anyone listening, myself included, we have to take an active role in our health. That is whether you're seeing a conventional doctor, an FDN, across the board. The real change happens in our daily decisions, not on an appointment once a month. People might say it's a lot of work, but I think it's a lot more work to be sick, to be bedbound, to see what I witnessed for 10 years. And I have been in the optimization and biohacking world for about 6 years now, maybe 7. And then also the conventional world. And I saw a huge difference. So
Sure.
to some, it
No,
may not
you're
resonate, and
right.
that's fine. But I'm so grateful that I saw the contrast of the two. And it led me from nursing, which I don't care about prestige. I care about helping people truly
Helping.
get better. And I feel that this is the best path to
Yeah,
do it.
like I
So
said,
thank you.
yeah. Well, you are the walking and talking spirit of what we do. And
Hmm.
one last thing I'll just say, I'm always saying this when people talk about, oh, these labs aren't covered by insurance, and most of them aren't. It's out of pocket. Why? Because that's your best investment. I heard you say that earlier. That's your best investment. And if you think that getting well is expensive, try staying sick. See how that
100%.
serves you. Yeah.
And, without, I could get on a rabbit hole here, but why doesn't insurance cover the things that are the best of the best? And that could be a whole episode in itself. But,
Okay.
cash pay is what I choose so I can work with people that I feel I can
Yes.
communicate with, that they respect how I'm choosing to live my life, whether they agree with it or not. They'll educate on why that choice is serving me or potentially not serving me. But right to autonomy, I was written in the Washington Post in, I believe, 2021. I just really believe in the patient's right to autonomy. I don't get to decide. I'm taking that power away from someone. And my job as a nurse, my job as a coach, my job as a practitioner is to empower that person, not to take it away from them. And that's what we're doing. So I thank you again. We briefly spoke before we started recording about getting the link set up. So fdntraining.com/Ashley Taylor Wellness. If someone goes to
It's
that
done.
link, it's
Yep.
done. Okay. So what's happening if they go to that link?
Well, I think we'll give your listeners a free guidebook on the dress program. Um,
Okay.
we could give them something else if you want, but that's usually a good place to start with. What does the lifestyle of an FDN look? And this is both for practitioner
Yeah.
and for the client. Like it's all the same. I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do or
Right.
I'm trying to do. And on that topic, by the way, health is like climbing stairs. There's effort involved. And I don't know anyone at the top of the stairs. I don't even know what that looks like. Everybody's on the stairs, so don't feel bad. If you want to practice this, you'll find people are ahead of you on the stairway, and you'll find a lot of people below you on the stairway. That's what our job is, kind of to help them up. And even these ones who are doing fantastic, they would just want to, you say, optimize their health, perform better is what I say.
Hmm.
So anybody can do this, and that was how it was designed. Because if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Well, once again, I thought that it might be very easy and a lot of fluff because anyone can do it, but it is so thorough, so comprehensive. I
Yeah,
have all of the slides printed out. I am just learning so much and I highly, highly recommend it. I
yeah,
have tried other coaching programs, which is different. But as far as a practitioner program, I sat with a few and this felt like the right choice. And once again, I'm so happy with it. So I really appreciate you creating this and for spending your time today to educate more on what FDNs do, the dress model, hidden, and there's a lot in here. So anything you want to say
yeah.
before we sign off?
Get up every day and be grateful. That's what my
Yeah.
wife and I do and try to. There's always stuff going on. You could think about it the other way if you wanna. But it's really a decision you get to make. You want to take control. No one else should have that control. It belongs to you. And so I encourage everybody to get up every day, be grateful, and try to build on it.
Yes. One step at a time. You don't have to change everything overnight, but what's one step that I can take to better myself? And over time, that adds up very quickly, these small steps that we stack. So yeah, it's totally worth it. It is work, but it's a lot more work and a lot more money to be sick. So I'm grateful that I got to witness that and now have the opportunity for myself and for my clients. So thank
Fantastic.
you again. All right. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and check out the link in the bio if you want to learn more about FDN. Thank you for listening to the Ashley Taylor Wellness Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast, rate it, and leave a review. Ideally, a 5-star review if you loved it. All of this is free of charge to the listener, and your reviews allow me to grow and bring on more amazing guests and to run the podcast. If you take a screenshot and tag me, I'll repost you and shout you out on Instagram. So tag Ashley Taylor Wellness and let us know what you loved about the episode. I'd also love to hear from you, and I'm open to any feedback as I want to make sure I provide as much value as I can for you all. Email me at ashley@ashleytaylorwellness.com. And if you have any ideas or topics for guests, I am all ears. I will leave you with this disclaimer. This is not medical advice or replacement for seeking medical care. Everything discussed on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Always consult with your medical provider before making any changes. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.